AI hype. Virtually every post on LinkedIn that I see, emails, newsletters that I receive on a regular basis from conferences I'm a member of and research societies, it's AI, AI, AI. And it seems like AI is everywhere and everybody is doing AI.
I think it's just worthwhile just to take a couple of minutes to talk about where we've come from in research, where we've come from in order to understand where we're going. And because the history of consumer research, the history of market research and consumer research, or the history of its evolution, is basically a story of technology. And this has been the case since the very inception of market research. And in fact, it has always traditionally been technology that has allowed market research to operate and to be as influential, actually, as it is today. When I say influential, we know it's data that is used across all corporate organizations. Polling is used by governments and political parties. Its influence is so this data collection business is all pervasive. It's kind of hidden. It's under the table. No one knows that much about it, but it's all pervasive, and it's all been enabled by technology. And even in the qualitative arena, Nick, even though it's been slower to adapt to digital technology, the qualitative arena, it actually has come to a head and has exploded recently there as well. So if we just look at quant, for example, when I started doing market research, we were still in the last days of what we call the paper and pen surveys. You would literally print surveys, give them to brief armies of field workers who would go out door to door to collect often very long surveys and bring them back and punch them they get them punched into the mainframe, the computer, etc. And then etc. But the data collection was done using manual methods not that long ago, by the way, not that long ago. And then the big revolution in that happened even before my time, and that was computing power. So basically, these huge mainframes enabled mass data storage, collection, and back then, by today's terms, slow, but back then, relatively swift kind of statistical analysis that was actually not possible before these computers became available. Unless you sit around doing hand tallies, and we know that's not possible in the kind of work that market researchers do at all. So it's been enabled by technology from the outset. So quant research became bigger because of the application of mainframe computers inside organizations, which then turned into personal computing pretty much as we experience it today. And then also the use of statistical packages and platforms that every single quant researcher today is using to analyze what is now some of the most complex data sets that have ever been collected in human history. And these data sets are enabled because of our ability to program them, to collect the data, and to analyze it all through software. And software is AI to an extent. All software is AI to an extent, right? So that enabled then the huge proliferation of quantitative research and analysis to happen. Basically, that has been completely technologically led. And even in qual, Nick, even though the qualies have been very resistant to adapt digital mechanisms for interviewing, we know during the pandemic, when everyone was forced to do groups online and do depth interviews online, etc., until that time, the entire qualitative industry was somehow resistant to doing that. But then we were all forced to do it and realized that, a lot is enabled by doing that. A lot is enabled by conducting qualitative work through technology, which is what we're doing right now. Okay, so online groups, even for our work, Nick, with the ethnographic work, your work, the use of remote ethnography, where we basically log into people's phones and they're using their phones as their point of view cameras, right? In order to give us remote ethnographic information. So that's been enabled by technology as well. So the entire history of market research and consumer research is one of enablement via technology. And now this AI thing is the latest in all of that. And the reason this one's getting a lot more attention, but by the way, all the things that I've described before, which is moving field work online, for example, so from pen and paper to online, that was an overnight revolution. That wasn't gradual, by the way. As soon as online fieldwork became available and panels were available online, everyone moved to online. The pen and paper and armies of field workers were dropped literally, quite literally overnight. So that was a massive revolution in our industry. And then there now has been another massive revolution in our industry in the qualitative arena, where now I would imagine most qualitative work is now happening online. There's still the face-to-face stuff going on, as we all know, and we all do it. But most of the stuff is happening online because of many reasons. But so the AI is now generating a lot more controversy because the AI is now promising to be even more human, to take all of that and actually to allow a digital platform to kind of almost create a sort of some sort of human and goes out there and collects information and analyzes it and gives it back to us in a way. So the AI hype at the moment in our industry, when we've dug into this and I've sat through, or not just me, but other researchers that I know, some colleagues of ours, have sat through the last couple of years, have been following the progress quite closely of the use of AI in market research. And most of the stuff that we've sat through, most of the presentations and the sales presentations and all that were basically, and I'm not demeaning it or putting it down in any way, but they were basically a kind of a desk research. So it was using AI that they would ask AI a question, and it could be a question about a brand, right? And that AI would then do what is ostensibly a very, kind of a Google search in a way, and then take all of that information and generate answers back, right? And by the way, just as an aside, I was reading yesterday that the AI needs so much processing power, so much more processing power than, for example, a Google search requires. So when we do a Google search, obviously, the AI search apparently requires so much more processing power than a Google search that it's basically the AI companies at the moment are running at a loss. They can't make money, right? Because of the cost involved of actually having the AI platforms there. They can't make money at the moment, right? At the moment. So basically what we've come to the sort of conclusion that most of the AI stuff that's being sold into market research at the moment, and there may be some exceptions to this, right? But most of it seems to be a type of desk research, not primary data collection. So not an AI interface not an AI platform that interfaces with the consumer, with our respondent, if you know what I mean. There is no respondent because there is no question. The question is, do a search on this and tell me what you find, ostensibly is what it is, right? But to be honest, I and the clients that I've spoken to find that of limited value because they can't rely on what's out there at the moment. They can't rely on what's out there about a brand or a category or whatever, or on the kind of motherhoods that AI often generates as a result of that. They can't rely on that for their marketing or for their information needs. It's not specific enough. It's not deep enough. It's just, it's too general. It's too broad, and it's not reliable. It's not necessarily coming from their consumers.